My name's Smith. I'm just your average guy with no big shot dreams. After I graduated from college, I couldn't really find a job that fit. It was always either too much or not enough. So I just moved back to my hometown, Oakville. Truth be told, I didn't just move back, I actually got hired by my grandma. She's got a pretty solid pension, and she told me she'd give it all to me as a salary. The deal was, I come home to take care of her, and in return, I get some peace and quiet in the countryside instead of messing around in the city. It was getting pretty dark out, with that last bit of sunset hitting the ground. The new community plaza at the edge of town was totally empty. So there I was, heading home with a bag of snacks and some instant mac and cheese I just picked up from the local grocery store. Right then, I spotted a figure sitting on the steps by the plaza. As I got closer, I saw it was a girl. Her back was toward me and she looked pretty thin, but something immediately felt off. Her clothes, she was wearing this old school US Army field jacket, the kind you only see in World War II movies. It was faded, covered in mud, and there were even these dark reddish stains that looked a lot like blood. I asked, trying to be as careful as possible.
Hey, you okay? What are you doing sitting out here? Your clothes are a mess, and are you hurt?
She whipped her head around, and her eyes, they were like a wounded animal trapped in a trench, totally on edge. It caught me completely off guard. Her eyes were clear but filled with exhaustion and suspicion, and her face was streaked with dirt and blood. She didn't say a word, just stared me down, her entire body tensed up. Her hand instinctively moved toward her waist, like she was ready to either pounce or bolt at any second. I quickly softened my voice and held up both hands.
Whoa, easy there, I'm not a bad guy. Are you lost or something?
She hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. Her voice was raspy and strained, like she hadn't had a drop of water in forever.
Sir, may I ask, where am I?
Sir, that title caught me off guard. It had been a long time since anyone called me that. But I managed to find my voice and gave her an answer anyway.
This is Oakville. The town center is just up ahead.
When she heard the words Oakville, her eyes snapped wide open, and her whole body gave a violent shudder.
Oakville?
Her voice was trembling with pure disbelief. I looked at her, totally puzzled, and said,
Yeah, this is Oakville. Why? What's wrong?
She didn't answer me. Instead, she just looked around, totally dazed. I followed her gaze, taking in the new two-story townhouses, the smooth asphalt roads, and the Ford pickups driving by. To me, it was just a typical day in town, but to her, it looked like some kind of impossible hallucination. Her face was a mix of total shock and confusion. It wasn't just that she was lost, it looked more like she was desperately trying to recognize a place that was completely foreign to her, while the place in her memory just didn't match up at all.
This can't be. Oakville isn't supposed to be like this.
She whispered, her voice breaking, her face a mask of pure shock and confusion. I tried to reach out, testing the waters.
Hey miss, has it been a long time since you were last here? Oakville's changed quite a bit lately. They've put up these new buildings and paved the roads. We call it a modern community now.
But she didn't seem to hear a word I said. Her eyes were darting around, getting more and more panicked, until she suddenly lunged and grabbed my arm. Her grip was unbelievable. It felt like a freaking iron vise.
Sir, no, mister. Please, just tell me. What year is it?
I was totally freaked out by the look in her eyes. I just blurted it out without thinking.
It's 2026.
The air just froze. Her eyes went completely blank, her body stiffening like a stone as her grip on my arm gave way. A crumpled military map slipped from her fingers and hit the ground. She looked utterly shattered, like the weight of being abandoned by the entire world had just crushed the life out of her. My heart skipped a beat. Man, this is way too much for her to take. Looking at the state she's in, there's no way I can just leave her here. My grandma always said we should look out for each other. Even if this whole thing is beyond weird, I can't just walk away. I picked up the map. The ink was faded, stained with dried blood, totally unreadable. I asked her softly if she had any family. She just said no, they all died on the battlefield. My heart just broke for her. Homeless, wounded, and standing there in the freezing winter in nothing but those thin clothes. I felt so much pity for her. Looking at her like that, I just said,
Look, you're hurt, and you've got nowhere to go. My grandma and I live right here in town. Why don't you just come back with me for now? Let her take a look at those wounds, and at least you'll have a place to rest. We can figure out the rest once you're feeling better.
She looked at me as a mess of suspicion and helplessness. After what felt like forever, she finally gave a small, slow nod.
Okay, I'll come with you.
She said yes, and I felt this huge wave of relief. I put my arm out to steady her, and we started heading toward the center of town, taking it one slow step at a time. Even though she was clearly exhausted, she kept scanning her surroundings with the sharp eyes of a veteran. Everything, the streetlights, the parked cars, even the glow of TV screens from the houses seemed to fill her with total shock. It was like she was a complete stranger to this world, as if she'd been dropped onto another planet. Just as we got to the front door, my grandma was about to head out. When she saw me with this girl dressed in an old military uniform, covered in dirt and blood, she nearly jumped out of her skin. She rushed over, her voice filled with panic.
Good Lord, what on earth happened? Who is this girl?
Grandma, I found her near the edge of town. She seems completely lost, and she's hurt. I couldn't just leave her out there.
I wouldn't dare mention all that strange talk about what year it is. My grandma's got a heart of gold. One look at her like that, and she was just heartbroken.
Good Lord, we need to treat these wounds right now. Why is she wearing so little? In the dead of winter like this, she'll catch her death of cold if we are not careful.
My grandma took her by the hand, gently pulling her inside the house. She followed her inside, as obedient as a soldier following orders. But the moment she stepped through the door, she was completely floored by what she saw: the bright LED lights, the soft fabric sofas, the flat-screen TV on the wall, and the blast of warmth from the heat. She looked like a primitive human stepping onto an alien spaceship, staring at everything with a mix of wonder and extreme caution. Grandma rushed to get the first aid kit to treat her wounds. The gash on her shoulder was deep, looking like it was caused by shrapnel. As Grandma cleaned it with hydrogen peroxide and bandaged it up, the girl was trembling from the pain, but she grit her teeth and didn't make a sound. Her eyes were fixed on the antibiotic ointment in Grandma's hand. It was clear that all of this was completely foreign to her. Once her wounds were all bandaged up, I figured she had to be starving. I pulled out that instant mac and cheese I'd bought at the supermarket, the cheesy bacon flavor, my absolute favorite. I'd originally planned to scarf it down while gaming tonight. As soon as it finished heating up in the microwave, the smell filled the entire room.
You must be starving, right? Here, this is instant mac and cheese. Just heat it up, and it's ready to eat. Dig in.
I held the container out to her. She stared at the steaming food inside, her eyes a mix of wonder and total confusion.
Instant mac and cheese? I've never heard of that before.
No way. You've seriously never heard of mac and cheese. It's microwave food. Just give it a try. The cheese is amazing. Trust me.
She grabbed the plastic fork from me, looking a bit clumsy at first as she stabbed a few noodles. But man, after that first bite, her eyes just lit up. The look of pure shock and joy on her face was unbelievable. Then she totally lost it, started shoveling it down like there was no tomorrow, eating so fast it was scary. Sauce was splashing everywhere, like she was terrified a shell was about to drop and cut her meal short. Watching her eat like that, my grandma was so heartbroken she kept telling her to slow down. Once she finished the whole container, even licking every last bit of cheese sauce off the bottom, she let out a long, satisfied sigh.
Thank you for the food. It was truly amazing.
After she finished eating and drinking, she seemed to perk up a bit. My grandma started asking her about where she came from and why she was wearing the US military uniform. She went quiet for a moment, as if she was gathering her thoughts. Then, in an incredibly serious tone, she said,
You might not believe what I'm about to say, but every single word, it's the absolute truth.
She began to tell her story.
It was during a bloody twilight battle in the Ardennes, 1944. Suddenly, the rip of an MG-42 tore through the silence like shredding fabric. Bullets came down like rain. My comrades were dropping one by one into the snow. The air was thick with smoke, limbs were flying everywhere, and everything was just a blur of blood and flesh.
She told us about her commanding officer, Captain Miller. In the heat of the most dangerous moment, with German mortar fire raining down around them, he screamed at her at the top of his lungs, giving the order that would change her life forever. Get to Oakville. Find the battalion commander and call for artillery support.
The captain said I was the fastest runner in the entire company, and that I had the best sense of direction. He told me I was the only one who could make it through that path.
A deep sadness washed over her eyes again, as if she were staring at a field littered with corpses.
The rest of my brothers. They were all giving their lives just to buy me time. Also, I could make it to Oakville, find the battalion commander, and call for artillery support. It was the only way to save them.
She described how she stayed low, crouching as she moved from one shell crater to another, using the wreckage of destroyed Sherman tanks as cover while she clawed her way southwest. The German fire was relentless, chasing her every step of the way. Bullets hissed past her ears, slamming into the frozen ground and kicking up chunks of dirt and sparks. She fell, scrambled back up, her knees and elbows bleeding from the ice and rocks, but she didn't dare stop. The only thing in her head was the captain's order and that map with the coordinates tucked against her chest. As she spoke, she reached up and gently touched her right shoulder, the one my grandma had just finished bandaging.
I ran into a dark stretch of the woods, trying to lose those Jerrys. That's when a stray bullet grazed me. It burned like hell, but I knew I couldn't go down. I kept pushing through the pain, and then my foot just hit empty air. I was falling.
As she reached this part, her voice trailed off into a mix of confusion and uncertainty.
It wasn't flat ground. It felt like a pit hidden under the snow, or maybe a collapsed bunker entrance. I don't know for sure, but the ground just vanished. And then I was falling, headfirst, into the dark. And as I was falling, all I could hear was the wind whistling past my ears and the sound of branches scratching against me. Then something slammed into the back of my head. A sharp, blinding pain. My vision started to fade, and I just lost consciousness.
As she recalled that moment, her gaze started to drift, as if she were being pulled back into that bottomless darkness once again.
But just when I thought I was dead, just as I was ready for it to be over,
suddenly, her voice shot up, filled with a raw sense of incomprehensible terror and an absolute miracle.
Suddenly, there was this light, this incredibly piercing white light. It wasn't a searchlight, and it wasn't the sun. It was just this pure, blinding whiteness. It completely consumed everything I could see.
She came to a sudden halt, seemingly struggling to find the right words to describe an experience that completely defied all common sense. She pulled her arms tightly around herself, her whole body trembling slightly as she spoke.
It felt like I was being sucked in by some massive, overwhelming force. Or like I was being torn apart in an instant. It was terrifying beyond words. I had no idea what was happening. And then, everything just went black. When I woke up, I was here, in this Oakville that's nothing like the one I remember. I'm still in my uniform, the wound is still there. But everything around me has changed. No roar of artillery, no stench of gunpowder. Just these strange, metal boxes and houses. I thought I was dreaming, or maybe I had died and gone to heaven.
She looked at me, her eyes filled with a helpless plea for understanding. Then she pointed her finger right at me and said,
I asked him what year it was, and he told me. It was 2026. That's when I knew I wasn't dead. I had ended up in a place that shouldn't even exist, a future world, decades ahead of my own.
My grandmother and I just sat there, completely speechless. A World War II soldier, 1944, time travel? The whole thing sounded like some far-fetched Hollywood sci-fi flick. My first thought was she must be suffering from some severe PTSD. Maybe her mind just snapped.
Time travel? What? Like in Back to the Future. Look, lady. This story is getting a bit old. It is a total cliche.
My grandmother was just as bewildered, but looking at the raw sincerity in the girl's eyes and that authentic World War II uniform, that very real bullet wound, she began to waver. No storyteller could fake those bloody battlefield details so vividly, and her sheer ignorance of modern tech. You couldn't just write that off as crazy. Seeing our doubt, her eyes dimmed, but she didn't back down.
My head is clear. I know how hard this is to believe, but I'm telling you, I really did come from that battlefield in 1944.
She gestured toward her bandaged shoulder, as if the wound itself were her only identification card.
The shrapnel wounds on my body, they're real.
The room fell into a dead silence. My grandmother and I locked eyes, both of us seeing the same raw shock and flickering doubt in each other's gaze. Even though it felt absurd on a rational level, looking at her, I just knew she wasn't lying. Finally, my grandmother spoke. Her voice held this complex blend of tenderness and weary resignation.
Listen, child, regardless of how you got here, you're hurt and you have nowhere else to go. Since you've ended up with us, just stay here and rest, whatever it is. We can talk about it after you've recovered.
She didn't explicitly say, "I believe you," but her willingness to take in a total stranger with such a staggering story was already an extraordinary act of trust and kindness.
What is your name?
My name is Sarah.
Her voice was clear and firm as she answered, carrying the sharp, disciplined edge of a soldier. For the next few days, Sarah stayed with us. To help her feel more at home, grandmother dug out some of her own clothes from when she was younger for her to wear. I watched her as she stood in the bathroom, staring in wonder at the faucet, the flushing toilet, and even the mirror. Seeing her like that, the reality of her being from another time felt more real with every passing moment. Her reactions to ordinary appliances like electric lights, TVs, double-door refrigerators, and fully automatic washing machines were as if she were staring at alien technology, leading to more than a few laughs. For instance, she once mistook a light switch for some kind of detonator and even threw her hands up in surrender at a news anchor on the television. Grandmother, her heart aching at the thought of Sarah's days shivering and starving in those trenches, went out of her way to cook her roasts and thick stews. Yet, to our total surprise, even though Sarah was curious about all kinds of modern delicacies and praised everything she tasted, her absolute favorite turned out to be microwave instant meals.
Grandmother, could I have that instant macaroni again?
What's so good about that? It's just processed food, no nutrition at all.
I kept trying to persuade her to eat more of grandmother's roasted steak instead, hoping to build up her frail, thin frame. There was a complexity in Sarah's eyes that we couldn't quite grasp.
This instant macaroni is so convenient. You just heat it up and it's ready to eat. And it tastes so good, it has real cheese flavor.
She paused, a flicker of sadness passing through her eyes.
During the Battle of the Bulge, marching through that freezing snow, pinned down by German artillery with the boys getting hit. If only we had had this. To be able to eat a hot, high-calorie bite of cheesy macaroni anywhere, anytime, imagine how much of a difference that would have made. So many of my brothers couldn't even choke down their moldy crackers. Maybe, if we'd had this to keep our strength up or to feed the wounded, we could have actually held that line.
Her words left both grandmother and me in silence. To us, instant food was just a quick fix, junk food, or something to grab during a late-night ball game. But in her eyes, it carried the hope of survival on a frozen battlefield and the endless regret of those brutal years. Her sorrow was so raw and heavy that, for a moment, it felt as if we were pulled right back with her into the blood and chaos of the Ardennes forest. From that moment on, the story of Sarah's time travel no longer seemed entirely absurd to my grandmother and me. The marks left on her by that brutal era of war ran so deep that even a box of microwavable food could trigger memories of her comrades fighting in blood and snow. Grandmother never tried to stop her from eating instant meals again. Instead, she had me stock up on several cases of different flavors from the supermarket. Sarah slowly settled into our home, cautiously learning to adapt to this brand new world of peace. As the days passed, she integrated into the family faster than I ever expected. Perhaps it was the powerful survival instincts of a frontline soldier, or maybe the brutal hell she endured in World War II gave her a deeper sense of gratitude for the conveniences of modern life. She no longer mistook light switches for detonators and had learned to master the thermostatic faucets and the toilet. Though she was still careful when first using the dishwasher and microwave, she quickly got the hang of them. She learned how to use an iPhone. To her, the device was nothing short of magic. A tiny screen that could show people thousands of miles away, provide news from across the globe, and even play old World War II documentaries including combat footage of her own infantry division. Watching those grainy, black and white images of brutality, she would often fall into a long, heavy silence. I knew exactly what was crossing her mind, but I never dared to disturb her. She was the type of person who simply couldn't sit still. As soon as her strength returned, she took it upon herself to help grandmother with the chores. When grandmother tried to shield her from the heavy lifting, she'd insist on washing the dishes, vacuuming the floors, wiping down tables, and even following grandmother into the backyard to learn how to mow the lawn. She moved with a brisk efficiency, her eyes reflecting the disciplined rigor of a soldier. Everything she touched was done with impeccable order.
Sarah dear, you take a rest, I can handle this.
Grandmother, I can't stand just sitting around. Please, let me do it. In the army, nobody gets a free ride. Being able to do something, it gives me peace of mind.
Sarah would always answer with a smile, a clean, bright smile that carried a touch of the grit and resilience unique to her generation. As she helped grandmother with the chores, both of us could feel that she wasn't doing it out of a sense of obligation or because she felt like a guest. It was something deeper, a bone-deep industry and discipline forged in the fires of war. Grandmother grew fonder of her by the day, often taking her hand to share family stories or talk about how America had changed over the decades. Sarah would listen intently, using grandmother's words to piece together, bit by bit, the monumental shifts the world had undergone during those 80-odd years. Beyond just helping around the house, I also began attempting to introduce her to the broader modern world. On a quiet weekend, I made a suggestion to her.
How about I take you for a spin around town today?
What's it like in the city now?
You'll see when we get there.
The changes in the small town had already astonished her, and I wanted her to see what a true modern metropolis looked like. Sarah climbed into my car, and we began the drive toward the city. Even though it was only a second-tier city, to Sarah, it might as well have been another dimension straight out of science fiction. When the city's glass-curtained skyscrapers finally loomed before her, she froze completely. Though the New York of her time had its high-rises, these were taller, denser, and shimmering a crystalline forest thrusting straight into the heavens. On the interstates, dense streams of traffic hurtled past, while massive LED billboards flashed with a brilliance that was almost blinding. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, her voice trembling with sheer awe.
This is unbelievable. Is this heaven?
I took her for a slow stroll through the city. She marveled at the dazzling array of goods lining the commercial streets, novel electronic gadgets, beauty boutiques, fast fashion outlets. Every single thing left her in awe. She saw colossal electronic screens broadcasting Super Bowl commercials. She watched young men and women walking by in revealing or eccentric outfits, all while the sounds of rock music and the urban roar echoed from every direction. I took her to a massive shopping mall. When we stepped onto the escalator, she gripped the handrail in a panic, convinced that the moving stairs were some kind of military conveyor belt. Upon seeing the mountain of food in Walmart, the beautifully packaged goods, the snacks she'd never heard of, and rows upon rows of Coca-Cola, an expression of utter disbelief washed over her face. It was as if she were staring at an inexhaustible logistics depot.
All this food. There's enough here to last even if another world war broke out, isn't there?
Hearing her words, a sharp pang of sadness hit me. I couldn't help but recall what she'd told me before about how back then, out in the snow, they were lucky if they even had moldy rations to eat. I took her down into the subway. As the silver trains hurtled through the dark tunnels, she let out a series of small gasps, completely unable to fathom the engineering behind it. In Central Park, she watched people lounging on the grass, walking dogs, and jogging past with effortless ease. At the school gates, she stared at the children in their casual clothes, looking so utterly carefree. And in the hospital, she stood frozen before the humming, high-tech MRI machines. Every new experience hit her with the force of a tidal wave. She peppered me with 1,000 questions. How did this world stay in motion? How did people manage to live such peaceful lives? She wanted to know every detail of the 80-year gap that had transformed her reality into this impossible future. I sat with her and patiently explained the milestones of the decades she had missed. I spoke about the end of the Cold War and the fall of the Iron Curtain, the birth of the internet and how it wove the world together, and the Apollo program that actually put boots on the lunar surface. I described a world that, despite its flaws, was living through a long era of relative peace without a total global conflict, a concept that seemed almost mythical to someone from 1944. As she listened, her eyes flickered between shock, longing, and a deeply suppressed sorrow. When I spoke of the Allied victory, how the fascists were finally overthrown, and how people began to live lives free from the terror of air raid sirens, she fell into a long, heavy silence. Her eyes grew red, brimming with unshed tears. I knew that in her own way, she was reaching back through time, offering these tidbits of peace as a silent tribute to the brothers in arms she had lost on the battlefields of Europe. As spring melted into summer, the heat began to rise, and the oak leaves in town grew thick and lush. Sarah's life with us became increasingly steady. The gunshot wound on her shoulder had fully healed, and her cheeks, once hollow and pale, now glowed with a healthy radiance, thanks to proper nutrition and an environment free from the sulfurous stench of gunpowder. Grandmother had meticulously cleaned and tucked away that blood-stained World War II uniform. In its place, Sarah now wore modern casual clothes bought from town. Though the styles were simple, they seemed to pulse with a new kind of vitality on her. She still had a fondness for microwave meals. While they were no longer her staple, she'd still heat one up every now and then, savoring it with genuine relish. As she ate, her gaze would occasionally drift toward the horizon, lost in thought. But I could see it, the brutal alertness of the battlefield and the deep-seated sorrow of the trenches were slowly being washed away, diluted bit by the rhythm of this new world. She began to truly focus on the life we shared, checking in on grandmother's health, asking about my job search, and keeping up with the local gossip in town. Sometimes, I'd watch her soaking up the sun on the backyard lawn, or catch her intently mimicking modern slang from the TV, or see her chatting away with grandmother while they baked apple pies. In those moments, I'd get this strange feeling like she was just an ordinary American girl from this era, an old friend I'd known forever.
The story isn't over yet. Will Sarah ever return to her own time? And is there a romantic future waiting for us? Stay tuned as the journey continues.